Councilor Martin.
I would like to look at that also, because our lots on the hot farm vary all over the place. And I would like to have a close look at the lot sizes again.
Okay.
Because I think these are being raised from what they are now.
Through your worship, they are province-wide. Absolutely. Interior Health is setting the parameters for this and suggesting that that if there's a septic system involved, it should be a certain size. I know that I live on it with a septic on a lot smaller than this. Yes, the province is increasing it, and we're in lockstep with the province is the challenge.
And we can't balk at them, we can't. We have our right, what does it call it, when you take your PERT tests and stuff like that?
I'm not clear on whether you can go below Interior Health's prescription. It's my understanding that they tell us these with septic, this is the minimum.
What's that?
They dictate to us. So for example, sorry, through the mayor, if we have a lot size, so we're probably about the same lot that we're thinking just now, we're probably thinking the exact same lot. There are options. You need to get creative, but there are options. So if we have a lot size and Interior Health come back and say you can't put 2 septic systems on that, then we may be able to run off 1 septic system. We may be able to stratify the lot so that it's sellable on both sides, or so it's a different way of doing it rather than subdivision, then a physical separation of it. But you need to get pretty creative with it as well. There's other ways around it. That's all I'm going to say.
Through your worship, one of the other changes is we specifically included duplexes to try and increase the use of the land, even if it couldn't be subdivided smaller.
Councilor DeBruin.
No, I think it's good.
Also remember, through your worship, that this only applies to new subdivision. Existing lots that may be smaller than this aren't stigmatized. This is what the approving officer would use in the creation of new lots. Okay. Section 11, residential zones. We now move to 11.1, the suburban residential. So this is for lots. We're trying to facilitate low to medium density, but these are lots that do not have full municipal services. And so as a result, the smallest lot would be 2,000 square meters, half an acre, consistent with Interior Health's prescription. Questions on that
We
one?
have taken, have we not, we're not subdivided just under 2,000.
I believe recently, thank you through the mayor, I believe recently we did, but it was a very, very.
Yes, so our most recent DVP for 190 TNT was just under our minimum lot size for the hot farm right now, so like 1,700 square meters.
So it was, okay.
So what do we do in a case like that? Can we give them a variance, or is that the provincial program again?
Through your worship, I'm afraid you're into an area where approving officers disagree on what your options are. So my understanding is council has issued a permission to an approving officer to vary it to a certain percentage. However, my education as an approving officer was you're not allowed to vary density. So unfortunately, staff asked 2 or 3 different approving officers, got 2 or 3 different answers. My answer would be I could not sign off on that, but there is some disagreement on that.
Did you have a question, CAO?
Hello?
Did you have a question?
No, absolutely not. I'm going to get another drink.
Okay. Okay. Any other further questions? Okay.
Into the R1 zone, low density residential. Similarly, we were saying, with low density residential, now we're talking serviced urban lots. And so as a result, the maximum lot size drops to 400 square meters, which is fairly typical for low density residential lots. Minimum width of 15 meters. Setbacks are now down to 3 meters, 1.5 on the side. And this permits a whole lot of uses and development on low density residential lots. including single-family duplex, modular, mobile.
Okay, so this speaks to the Heights area and around VLA, down Conway too. Okay.
We then have an R2 zone. The intent here is infill residential. This is very much aligned with the provincial desire to allow for significant densification on serviced lots. And so the intent here is that you could build a modular, a mobile, or single family, or a duplex, or a triplex, or a fourplex. Keeping in mind that an applicant must still satisfy the subdivision servicing bylaw to ensure that they have adequate fire protection, water, sewer, everything else. But this is a very permissive zone where the minimum lot area now is down as far as 250 square meters, which is a very intensive lot, minimum width of 12 meters. The intent here is to create redevelopment opportunities for growth and more attainable housing. So that's the R2 zone.
Okay.
It's over there. In Vancouver right there, I believe minimum lot size is 33 foot wide by 100 foot long.
Yeah, it's crazy. Well, those are some of the heights. That's what they are, 33 foot long
33.5, yeah.
by 1 high.
33 by 100.
That's on the
Yeah, up
heights?
on the heights,
Yeah,
yeah.
where it looks just about black.
I will share with you that McCusk is down to 7.5 meters, which if my math is right, is around 23, 24 feet.
Really?
It's allowing what people can do and then allowing the builder or the owner to figure out what they want. It's kind of stepping out of the way. I would argue that this goes a long way to doing that. That's why we're presenting it this way. But yes, the lots are getting tinier and tinier. We're finding a way. Yes. That is the R2 infill residential zone. R3 multi-unit residential now speaks to increasing density. So we're now looking at townhouses and apartments. You will notice that there is a minimum density prescribed in this zone. So the intent is that they are in fact creating housing, not underusing the land. That is a potentially contentious approach, common in many municipalities. But if a zone, if council has designated it for multi in the OCP and then zoned it for R3, the intent is they are in fact building density on the lot. Okay. R4 manufactured home park came up earlier. In my personal opinion, a very important part of affordable and attainable housing. And so we wanted to ensure that it remained as a zone in the zoning bylaw and prescribes that the modulars or mobiles must be certified. This is very common in every other zoning bylaw where prescribed the rating A277 or Z240. And the minimum size is the density and such. And so the parameters for manufactured home park are there. Any questions? Through your worship, I agree. I do not believe there is any property currently zoned R4. Moving to section 12, commercial. As I mentioned, there was a streamlining of commercial zones. And so at the moment, the proposal is C1 downtown commercial has an expanded list of uses, an expanded uses list of what's permissible on these properties. We increased the floor area ratio. We increased what was allowed to be built on these and the inclusion of apartments and dwelling units into this C1 commercial zone.
Councilor Fine.
With the downtown commercial and also going into C2 shopping centers, I don't feel that there should be animal shelters in those two areas. Like, yes, the veterinary clinic, you see that in Kamloops, but maybe this is just personal, but an actual shelter in a shopping mall or in a downtown commercial area. That's just my thoughts. I don't think they should be in those two areas.
Joe?
Sorry, clearly I have no comment on that. Can I ask a question, clarification on number 4? The A, with this A277 homes, Is it the A277 or the Z that needs to be on, it needs to be on an engineered footing?
Is, through the chair, it's the modular home 8277 that must be on a foundation.
Okay.
My understanding of Z240 from mobile is that it starts off on wheels and gets on blocks, but it's not a permanent foundation.
Okay. Can we also maybe add in just, as another note, maybe some potential age restrictions? The potential age restrictions in and around those buildings. Sometimes you can get, because there's two very different types of mobile homes. There's ones that are on wheels that move in.
Yeah.
There's go in station. There's another one which through the definition that needs to be on an engineered footing. The engineered footing ones are good, they're great, in decent value, they can do really well. The other ones typically decrease in value, and if they come in 20, 30 years old, they're quite dilapidated, they can really bring down the overall kind of tone and context of it. So can we just maybe get a little bit of framing about ages that they must be in and then also removed from as well? So if you have a mobile home that's potentially one of the Z models over a certain age that can be removed, just as a side note, just I hadn't thought that was going through.
Through your worship, my only miracle of the evening, your wish is my command. If council sees fit to leave this in, I think you shared this with staff earlier, so Xerxes has this in here. The current intent would be that mobile homes may be relocated provided they're less than 20 years old and receive a qualified third-party report.
Yes.
So
I was looking on the mobile home, not dwelling on the mobile home for definitions, but maybe go.
the, through your worship, where this pops up is in Kelowna right now, there's a whole lot of mobile home parks being decommissioned, and as a result, those don't qualify to go into new parks. So what's happening is people taking through rural residential properties and dropping these 40, 50-year-old mobiles onto other properties. And frankly, I don't think that is a good outcome. And so this is intended to, if it gets inspected, it passes, and it's of a certain age, we welcome it.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah, I'll just coming back to the animal
Shelter.
shelter, I support that position. Let's try to be C1. I'm not real sure where it should, where it would end up then,
Yeah, and, or C2, a shopping mall.
but the only question is where would it end up, and what, where would it be permitted, other than rural residential?
Minor.
I actually don't have a problem with that one. So if it was in the shopping mall and there's that little corner space in between the liquor store field there, if there was, but it just.
Maybe
light industrial or something.
Yeah.
I just.
Light industrial,
But
is in community or?
But commercial.
Shelters need outdoor space.
Yeah, shelters need outdoor space, they need runs, they can be noisy, they can be smelly, to be happening in a shopping mall or,
It doesn't open up either.
No.
Well, we don't have any of that anyways.
I would like to see them removed from those two.
C1 is only this little red space on Main Street. So do you want to have an animal shelter in there?
Yeah.
No. Okay.
No.
There you go.
That's a brewery and stuff.
No, that's industrial.
That's light industrial, it says on that.
Yeah, but that's not, she's talking commercial,
Oh, okay.
just the commercial property.
She's just thinking there's animal shelter in the downtown commission.
And in the shopping center.
She likes it.
Theo,
So-
would you like to weigh in on this conversation?
This is a debate between councils. Carry on, regardless. I can see why we wouldn't have things like that conflict. And is there any other specific reason? Is there any other reason that we have it in there other than just,
Trying to be permissive.
yeah, and again, I think this is what we see. We're trying to be permissive on everything that we're looking at. It's up to council to put it and take it out. It's all good.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Don't have it anyways.
Through your worship.
So do you guys agree that you want it out? I take it out, take it out, then take it out.
Very good. Move C1, we'll move C2. C2 shopping center zone, again, trying to be permissive, eating, drinking, financial, grocery, liquor stores, a whole lot of permitted uses. Again, the subdivision zoning requirements, the setbacks, the height, and other regulations for your shopping center zone. Any questions?
Councillor DeBrun,
You were first.
were you first?
I don't know.
Okay.
Rock, paper, scissors, go.
So just coming back to parking requirements and that sort of stuff, how does it work in the shopping center? Like, is the shopping center wholly owned or is it subdivided? Or, I mean, because if it is subdivided, how do you then come to parking requirements and that sort of stuff?
Through your worship, every shopping center that I'm familiar with is one property, one owner. They own the building and they own the shopping center, the parking lot. And so yes, they are responsible for a certain number of stalls. What we're seeing now with redevelopment, where they start putting high rises or outbuildings, even just like an A&W, they still have to meet the parking requirement for the overall property.
Okay, so parking, bike,
Yep.
EV is all under this. Okay.
I was just making sure we take the animal shelter out of the shopping center as well.
Agreed.
That's
Will do.
fine.
Councillor DeBrun?
Because we talked about EV charging and that sort of stuff, and particularly around level 2. Now, our only shopping center has a level 3. We don't want to put a requirement on them to put level 2 in. Right, because they have level 3.
Understood. Thank you. Into industrial, section 13, I1, section 13.1. Might I suggest that shelter would be, animal shelter might be appropriate in industrial zone? Is this maybe a good place to put it?
Yeah.
I1, perfect. You will appreciate at 13.1.16, there's no storage of certain chemicals in an I1 zone. This is typically the definition between light industrial and heavy industrial. So there's a list of prohibited products.
What is the difference between light industrial and industrial? I don't see a light industrial in here.
Correct. Sorry, the I1 zone is intended to be the equivalent of light industrial. It is a lighter series of uses. You can see compared to I2 being business industrial. Sorry, apologies. There's
I think you have it backwards.
I1 is the equivalent of
The
heavy
heavier
industrial.
industrial and I2 would be the more business park,
Thank you.
warehousing kind of industrial.
Sorry, where is our light industrial?
Our light industrial, we call it business industrial in the zoning bylaw.
Oh,
Was it I2?
business, okay,
So
Apologies,
this
I had
is
it backwards.
okay, I see. So business is light.
And the other is general?
Yeah, so industrial is all encompassing of almost all industrial uses, and then business industrial is a subset that makes it lighter.
Light.
I'm not really sure if I have this right, so we've got industrial here, we've got greenhouses and nurseries, etc. And then we've got no use shall contain or store nitrates, etc. Do not greenhouses use nitrates? Or is that a different sort of
No,
nitrate?
there would be a permissible amount. Maybe not.
The way it's written at the moment, they cannot contain or store these chemicals.
Yeah, fertilizers concerned. Yeah.
Sorry?
Fertilizers as well.
Yeah.
Need to be contained within that area, so. We need to look at the uses for some of these permissible uses within limited amounts.
Yeah, and
And then also within some of the industrial areas as well, I'm thinking storing propane cans and things like that as well, like gas canisters for barbecues and things, so there must be some.
And corrosives as well, because if you're looking at, blasting and that sort of stuff for,
We'll deep dive into some of those specifically.
Councillor DeBruin.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about Randy's old place, that would be in this, interest, where that would not even be in this.
Light industrial, a gray area.
Yeah, but this is heavy industrial,
Yeah, but I thought you said Randy's old place.
so,
His
okay,
is light.
right. So, because that stores, liquid petroleum gas and all these other things. And I don't think we necessarily want to,
In Bridge over the Shane Shop? Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm looking at, but it's light.
it's light industrial, and would be qualified as business industrial.
Well, there's no gas, but, well, there is, yeah, there's actually assembly.
I'm thinking even with storage.
Okay,
so I think that needs to be looked at, right?
Through your worship, there's an interesting piece around here around legal non-conforming that might be valuable, which is when council implements rules and restrictions, if a business owner already has other uses, they typically become legal non-conforming, which allows them to continue to operate, continue to do what they're doing. So it's not retroactive. You're not punitively can't shutting down their business. What this then does is it's on a go-forward basis. Somebody else comes in to develop in a vacant or redevelop one of these properties. These rules would apply on a go-forward basis. That said, if you don't like the rules, we'll change the rules.
Councillor DeBruin.
Yeah, because, I mean, that's the issue that we have with Timbermark, which was usually legal non-conforming or whatever. And now they wanted to do a building permit and they can't because the setbacks and this and that, right? And now they're stuck. So I want to avoid a situation where existing businesses that we build a fence around them, that they have no place to go, right? And so I want to be realistic about, the business activities that are ongoing and ensure that we don't implement a bunch of things that mean that their future is basically blocked. And maybe in that regard, we may need to look at the zoning in that area to move it from light industrial to industrial, and to allow for, to provide them a little bit more flexibility in terms of use. Because while the shopping center is for sure business industrial, or business industrial, the businesses behind there are more heavy industrial. And,
The shopping center is general commercial. The shopping center is not industrial or light industrial.
so it's
It's
commercial.
general commercial.
Oh, okay.
Wait a minute, CAO.
Yeah, thank you through the, and I think that then speaks to the fact that we do want to be encouraging our current businesses to be able to upgrade as well. So what we would end up having is we could potentially end up having the old shop, let's just say, for example, moved out, let's say that Charlie and the boys in there want to upgrade the shop. Then they come in here, they bring in the building permit, and then all of a sudden we can't do that. So if you want to upgrade their shop and put in new ramps and retrofit the whole area, then we would potentially turn around and say, well, actually, you can't, because now we're now legally non-conforming. They're able to stay at the old shop, but to build a new shop, that wouldn't work. So I think we could definitely finesse a little bit of that, to make sure that if they want to come in and develop it out a little bit more, there's a whole lot more allowances there to be in place.
I don't understand why that would be right.
Just location.
In that little area, though, the shop is the only one, and Builder Timber Mart or whatever it's called now, is the only one that isn't. The brewery's there and then the little store. Yeah.
And
Yeah, it
GLS.
is. And Garrett.
Yeah. And Garrett. So
We'll look at
I
that.
think we'll look at that, put that on the table. Okay.
Perfect. Moving on then to P1 Parks and Recreation. I'm not sure that there have been a whole lot of changes, to be honest, to these community use zones. Point is, you will have land that is specifically designated for Parks and Recreation. So.
Councillor Klein.
Can we have water park?
Yes, what a great idea.
Oh, what?
A water park.
Or would that just come under recreational services?
Just in case.
Through your worship, I'd argue that also between recreation and the open-ended park, water could be introduced into a park.
Okay.
But for completeness, I would encourage it to be listed. Why not?
Why not?
I think it's a terrible idea, but okay.
Okay, but
Did you say water shortage? Did you say? Yeah?
No, water restrictions.
Water.
Water park.
Yes. Yes.
why not? It's the hottest place in Canada.
You'd have to be like the car wash and recycle the water.
We would, because it goes under, yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Everybody's
Night
being
time,
in there,
yeah.
they slide down the slide.
I think it's just wonderful. It is good.
Similarly, zone P2 institutional covers a whole lot of other municipal uses, private buildings, private developments, but important to set out sizes, setbacks and such.
So,
Institutional. So that would be, our new development coming up here on the heights is, yeah,
okay, that's what I was
is
wondering.
institutional, and then there's a few other entities that are institutional.
What's this one way over?
Where is that? No, the school. That's George Murray School.
You got high school.
And then you got the high school and Cayuse. Where's Cayuse? Yeah, and then the hospital. Okay. Yeah,
Or cemetery.
that's.
Any discussion on institutional?
I-
I feel like I'm ready for one.
The cemetery thought.
I gotta read through this more.
I think cemetery, I don't think cemetery is in institutional, and I think that's intentional.
But it is.
Now, that's a different question, because there may be other cases where zoning should be changed, the map should be updated to reflect.
What would the
Cemeteries under Parks and Recreation.
But
What's this? Well, they're relaxing.
But isn't,
Because that's,
that's
that
the
would
rec
be-
center.
that'd be the church.
Through your worship, I think the intent, the purpose of having cemetery and parks and recreation is to very much limit what else could be done on that property. And so the fact, if it's currently zoned institutional, I might suggest that is a change that should be made.
Is it zoned institutional?
I don't know what it's,
The what?
The current cemetery?
It
I
is
think
colored,
we want to start
it's colored
foundation
institutional.
there first.
Where is it?
Right there.
that's the rec center.
We'll make sure that it's, we have some updates to the map, so we'll definitely pick that up. Zone P3, conservation and resource, there's a zone intentionally for that prohibits a whole lot of things. For lands that need to be conserved, particularly where you have steep slopes or other environmental features. Question on conservation and resource. Zone P4 airport, again, I don't think we changed anything with regards to the airport zone.
Can I ask one question? The airport, I know that there's one dwelling up there, one person that lives in a trailer. Is there two?
3 trailers, I think.
3 trailers. So this one says,
Through the mayor, there's two, like, lived-in trailers, and then there's also an ATCO trailer that's the pilot's lounge.
okay. So it says that 14.1.3 is caretaker dwelling unit. Is there, but there's 2.
Mhm.
I don't know then it makes a difference. I'm not an expert on this. One is leased out, if that matters.
So I'm just
And then-
wondering if
So
it's
we
conformed
have
in here.
one caretaker, and then the other property is actually leased.
Does that make a difference?
It does, in my opinion, your worship, I don't know that would be an intended dwelling caretaker, means one dwelling unit,
Right.
for one caretaker. I would suggest that anything else that's there and rented out is not currently in the zone.
So we have to,
Look at
Change
that.
that one.
Let's get her in it.
One plus one,
Plus one, sure.
plus one. There you go.
I'd plus four.
I've got that public.
Did we say?
Yeah, why make more rules? Just be a little more permissive.
We're looking for housing. You got
Could we do that as legal non-conforming? Because then nobody else would be able to come in there and do another home.
Through your worship, yes, the question would be, when was the one unit prescribed
Right.
versus when it was installed? If, as long as it was installed and in use before the zoning bylaw prescribed only one, it becomes legal non-conforming. You have,
Can we make it four?
you can make it, respectfully, you may anything you want, however, putting a bunch of residential units at the airport may not be where, like, just be careful on the number, you can make it.
Noise.
For one,
He's down.
Ultralight.
We're looking for some housing.
There's a community in the United States that is just the airstrip with houses. And every house has its airplane.
Well, we could sell Lillooet on that. There you go, what we have to offer. Everybody has to have a plug-in and a cage for the bike.
We got one.
We can live on the strip. Yeah, it has to be,
There's water there.
Okay.
I will share that airport redevelopments are popular in other communities. I think it was Tumler Ridge I was in, and they were intentionally creating opportunities around their airport. So
We could always change this.
there you go. You have a CD1 zone for Riverview Seniors Housing. Afford special permissions and special, but it's because it's historical, I can't, typically you don't reuse a CD zone. So I don't believe we changed anything in this. This is just reflective of previous.
Councilor Drew.
When was this zone created?
It's on by lot.
it is city law.
Do you know?
When was it bylaw created?
Is last council?
I would think so, yes, because that's when they came to us.
Yeah, but I'm like, why isn't it institutional?
It actually is, the property is actually as institutional, but like
Correct.
on our zoning, our current zoning is listed as institutional.
Through your worship, it shouldn't be. It should be reflected as a CD1 zone, but typically what happens is somebody's trying to do an institutional development, but needs so many variances or doesn't comply with the intent. They create a CD1 zone, a comprehensive development zone, basically to write their own zone. So if I don't like the height restriction, the setbacks, the lot size, and I can't vary it enough to get what I want, I create a comprehensive development zone to reflect a new set of rules for a development.
Just to answer the question, the zone was created in January 2022.
January
2022.
2022, so last council. And we created a CD1 zone, comprehensive development. And it was institutional. But because there was going to be long composing and everything on it, it didn't fall under institutional. Right. Created its own zone to comply because we don't have anything in first development, so. So what does it mean?
It means nothing other than I strongly encourage you to continue and keep this in the zone. It was a decision of that council, and unless you're trying to change it, it just continues on as CD1 as long as that development's there.
because there's apartments, there's townhouses,
So it should be changed on that.
then it should be changed on the map, right? Because it's-
We are recommending the inclusion of a C1 with a asterisk, C1 with an L, to allow for mixed use. And this is common practice where we are using the C1 as the underlying zone and then allowing for certain other uses like mixed use. As I shared, mixed use is a very powerful and very popular form of development, and we believe that's appropriate to C1 zone.
So where would our C1L zone be on the map?
It wouldn't exist yet. It would be a zone that people could rezone to or pursue if they wanted mixed use.
Oh, okay.
So, Councilor Burns.
Why not just make all C1Ls? What's preventing us from doing that?
Nothing's preventing you from.
No, okay, but I mean, but obviously you've put thought into this, and so you may have considered, well, why don't we just make C1 a commercial mixed use zone? But instead you decided, no, we're gonna keep C1 commercial, and then we're gonna introduce a new mixed use zone whereby people can rezone. So what was the thinking there?
So my understanding from Christina was that, Ken Taylor, this was the C1L zone was to deal with legal nonconformity, south of the rec center, to prevent legal nonconformity issues, where there's zone C1 now.
Sure that answers the question.
I'm lost.
I'm
No.
not really sure what I.
Yeah. So my understanding of the purpose of the C1L zone was it was to deal with the commercial lots on Main Street around here.
That are currently houses.
Yeah, they're current houses.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
So if I may then, yes, you have a challenge right now in the C1 zone lands that are being used as housing because they are all non-conforming. And they wouldn't be able to do additions, renovations, and or rebuild. And so using this zone to legalize it, give them a zone that specifically allows for houses in a C1, which you normally otherwise wouldn't, right? You typically wouldn't. You want mixed use, commercial and residential, but you don't typically want a commercial lot being built as a single family home.
Right.
However, because we already have them, the desire to legalize them so that they have rights to expand, redevelop, that might.
Yeah,
paraphrasing that.
that's my understanding.
Your worship, the alternative is that, and Enderby has the same challenge, a few other municipalities have the same challenge. You end up with real challenges of you can't get a residential mortgage on a commercial lot, even if it's a single family house. You can't rebuild if it burns. There are certain challenges that this is trying to resolve.
So in this, you would be able to get a mortgage, and that's,
In this, yeah, all of a sudden you'd still be a commercial lot. The intent is that you at some point redevelop to be commercial, but that your house as it sits is legal, not legal non-conforming. And I suggest we'll hear feedback from the owners and such on that, so we'll bring that back.
So if they were to sell, someone could put a convenience store there or a building, a bus terminal would be nice if we had a bus. but-
Correct, yes, it still has all the privileges of the C1 zone. They could demolish and rebuild it. Their house currently sits on a lot that is zoned commercial, so the intent is that it becomes commercial, like your main street becomes commercial down the road. The intent is to not be punitive to somebody that has a house there today.
Any further questions? I have one, a mobile food truck. How does that fit in when all of these things are buildings? The mobile food truck is mobile.
No, sorry. Through your worship, the intent is trying to allow for mobile food trucks in many different locations and places. And thinking that because this is an underlying commercial zone and they're permitted in commercial zones, that they would also be, even though there's a house on the lot now, they could have the same rights as the C1 zone.
So through the mail, we also have a development map that shows other areas that mobile vendors can go in and around town. So we've got specific locations that they can actually utilize and use externally, so they're not next to the Reynolds,
Right.
not next to Tim Hortons, not next to a high school, things like that.
Is there a limit on those
Eh,
specific
three-
spots? Is it
There's
like,
a current limit.
There's a current limit on it. We have a couple of vendors interested to come to town to set up, to do different activities, but like the farmers market, great, fantastic, you buy that, that's great, that's fantastic. But we just need to be mindful of how we introduce them into the community, and the area that they want to be in town is Main Street, but we can't permit that because that's empty. So there's a couple of little, some nuances in that there,
okay.
but we have got some other documents in.
Now, your worship, as a finishing touch, I have 21 pages of definitions of everything that we've talked about in the bylaw. Everything that's capitalized has a definition, and I will leave it to you to, anything in particular anybody wants to talk about in terms of those definitions.
I think you should read them all out.
I agree. And if we can just clear everybody's schedule for the next 2 hours. that'd be-
Only two?
Me too. But I assure you that when this bylaw comes back to you for consideration, you'll get another opportunity to revisit them.
I do have one question, just moving back like to the map of where the country store is. The country store is a general commercial. And then we've got 1, 2 lots that are suburban residential. And then we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that would be 2 Elks properties, empty vacant lot, and an industrial place, and then another vacant lot. But all 5 of those places are rural residential. So according to this map, this current map.
Yeah,
So,
it goes from orange to grey, the bottom half of it's grey, I believe. They're not grey.
no,
The country store is general commercial.
yeah, that's pink, but if you come like down, then you've got a couple properties there that are suburban residential, but then they go into rural residential when they're empty lots, when they're the Elks, when they're a business, so to speak.
I think me and James can sit down and have a look at that property. I think I understand what
I like it the way it is. I'm just wondering if it's,
Okay, we'll have a look at it.
I like it the way it is. Because everything on there would be legal non-conforming, except for the empty lots, correct?
Yes.
So what's next?
Thank you. The intent, if council sees fit, is to receive this report here tonight. And the intent would be that we address as many of these as we can and circulate a draft to the community, circulate a draft to the key stakeholders, circulate a draft over a period of a couple of weeks so that they have a chance to digest it. And then set up a public information meeting such that maps, figures, the text, ability to ask some questions, and compile that feedback, send a report to you through staff, sharing this what we heard. And depending on what we hear, if it requires minor surgery, we'd come to you with a final version, first and second reading. If it requires major surgery, we'd come back to you with seeking guidance. The hope would be that could be done by early to mid-December. That's our current proposal for next steps. Consultation is completely flexible and can be adjusted as you see fit.
We've had a lot of substantive discussions today. A lot of it, we sort of deferred to staff to sort of, take it in a certain direction, which I anticipate is going to, lead to significant changes in this bylaw. I feel a little bit uncomfortable of making those changes and then going to the public before we have another go at it, and feel comfortable with that text. And as you may appreciate, there was a lot of debate and and that is after, having seen the document for 48 hours, right? Or not even that, 36 hours. And so we have, I haven't had time to go through details and that sort of stuff. So I'm sure that in the second go round, there will be more comments and that sort of stuff. So I am not feeling very comfortable of just passing this back to staff and then having them make a draft and then going out to the public. I feel that there's been, given the contentions that we've had this evening, there is going to, there's going to be a lot of people with comments unless we have a second, round where we at least feel as a team, confident in that.
Okay, so then I asked, okay, sorry, I'll go with Randy first. I didn't put my hand up, I was just scratching my head.
I'm coming up, kind of on the same terms as Ralph, like, I would like to have another good look at this after we go through this again. I would like to be able to spend a little bit of time on it. Pushing through for December and whatnot, that's a very busy time for me and my family, and I think we'll be pushing our luck to make a decent job of this change in that new order. We can try, I'm willing to try, but for us to make a good sound effort here, I think we're being pushed, as Ralph says, and I'd like to just rein in a little bit and slow this team down and have a good look at this, because this is going to be something that's going to be substantial for our town. And it's nothing to sneeze at, man. I would like to have a good look at it, and I haven't had that yet. And you can see how it plays out, but like Ralph says, I'd like to see this next draft before it goes to town. Because I know if there's stuff in there, I know who's gonna get the flack.
Yeah, so let's ask staff how long it will take to massage some of these things and generate the changes and bring them back to us. Because we do have a strap town meeting coming up, and it's a 2-day thing. We can add a couple hours to that. But how long do you think it would take?
So if I could suggest that maybe council give Joe and James an opportunity to regroup tomorrow and see how substantial these changes are going to be. And then we can touch base back with council and let you know, give you an idea of when you could expect to see a new draft bylaw. Following that, maybe a week or so, we could schedule another committee of the whole so that council could do this all again.
Excellent. Don't forget the snacks. Where we brought them. Good idea. There you go.
To the mayor, I went through a lot of these in my time working in DC and Alberta as well. And James, you've been through a lot more of these than I have. What happens when we have a document of this size and this complexity? If we just give council this document and say, give us your feedback, and then you come back to it, the first time we may start really diving into this is like a meeting like this. So that's the purpose of tonight. Purpose of tonight is, this is already on the agenda, it's on the committee of the whole, it's out to the public, people will see it, it'll be a gas. I'm expecting Johannes will be watching this intensely, and will give me all of his comments on it as well, which we're looking forward to. But the idea just now is for us to go through this in great detail with council, really in depth, so that you understand how complex and how detailed it is, to get all of your feedback, to get the tone, we call it tone and intention, and so that we understand what the intention is, and then we can take that away, and then what we can do is actually let it percolate and run through all the stuff that we're meant to be doing with it, and then get it back to you guys. I agree, I think we are pushing it. I completely agree with that. That's my role and my responsibility here, is to kind of push this a little bit more. But council has to slow down with it. Fantastic, that's great. But my job on this, James's job on this, and us using the rest of the staff, is very much to try and get this implemented and in place so that we can start implementing the good changes that we're doing on it as well. So I respect what council saying on it, and I really appreciate the comments tonight. I think that was there's a lot of really good work. Stuff that we can take away from this, and we can definitely work on these things, because I think we kind of get what's, you know, so I appreciate the fact you didn't give much time for it. It was by design, because I want to kind of get it in front of us all at the same time, so we all see it, we all kind of get through it at the same pace, we're all still reading through it ourselves. But there's homework now, you know, there's significant homework. We need you to go through the definitions. If you don't like the definition of freeboard, I want to know why. You know, so there's homework, because the hard work's in this document, so really, really the council will be there and start heading it out, scratching out the ideas and getting back to us on. And we will bring it back to the strat plan meeting as well. And James and I, and Xerxes, the rest of the staff, in some direction. So that was a good session. Thank you.
Tony, do I need to make a motion to anything? Okay, any further comments, questions? Okay, seeing none. Somebody please move that the October 17th, 2024 committee of the whole meeting be adjourned. Mary Keller, all in favor? Harry, thank you. Don't forget your and. Because you set a standard, you know.